everyone. Welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about a different type of seasonal cleaning, and it's a more emotional one. Our guest is parenting and family expert Alvean Lyons. Welcome back.
Hey, Robin.
This is a different sort of topic. People don't think about emotional house cleaning.
No, not at all, but it's one of the most important things we can possibly do. As a matter of fact, personally, I had a very good friend when I was younger. Well, she's still a very good friend of mine, so she'd kill me if I said that. But she used to always say every spring she does spring cleaning, and she does it with friendships. And I had never heard that concept before. But then as the years went on, reading research, people talking over and over again about the importance of paying attention to who we are allowing in our lives and how that's affecting us as people and what's going on inside of us that's attracting certain kinds of relationships. The value in understanding those really made it like come to light for me. So
wow.
It's an amazingly important thing, but not something that we all think about on a regular basis.
All right, so how do you go about evaluating this? Because this is not coming naturally to me, I think.
And it probably doesn't come natural to lots of people. However, we recognize the feelings, but we don't necessarily know what to do with the feelings.
Okay.
So we recognize that we may have a girlfriend or a guy friend that, you know, every time we have a conversation, I feel a little funny about certain kinds of things. Or when we discuss certain topics, I feel a little strange about how I inside are doing as a result of it. And then you find yourself avoiding certain conversations with certain kinds of people. You'll notice that sometimes you don't want to answer the phone, or you're suddenly busy when they want to come or hang out.
I can't deal with that right now.
Yes,
That's
I can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a perfect way to explain it. Yes, I just can't right now. So you avoid it, and you push those relationships out of your interior space. But there's a reason why that kind of stuff happens, but we don't often do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And we sometimes, in the desire to be nice, particularly as women, which is very common for our gender, we don't like to offend or hurt anyone. So we hold on to relationships that aren't necessarily nurturing or feeding us anymore, just because we want to be kind in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. But that's not helping us at all, because it's the equivalent of holding on to emotional baggage. You're literally tying a weight around your life and not quite sure why certain things aren't changing in certain kinds of ways. So it's important for us to be mindful of what those relationships that make us feel like we want to avoid them in some way. That last invitation that you really don't want to send out, but you know you should, mm-hmm. and you do it anyway, but you're not looking forward to spending time with them. Those are all red flags that there's something about this relationship that is not feeding me well. So I found a very simple way to tie together a lot of what the research says in terms of how we need to evaluate these things and how we might go about them.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to say is the W. So let's think about the idea of wiping things that are not good for us out of our lives.
Cleaning the slate, wiping
Absolutely.
it off. Okay.
And it's okay to do. There's nothing wrong with us deciding that this person may be a good person, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily good for me. And we, particularly as parents, you cannot teach your kids to pick great relationships. And we know that the peer thing is very important if we ourselves are unable to do it. It's very difficult to communicate something that you have not quite wrapped your own mind around.
Right.
So if we're going to use this wiping concept, this is something that we practice as adults and then model to our own children. So with the W, you have to ask yourself, who do I really want to be? Who do I see myself as? And the relationships that you spend time in are definitely reflections back to you of who you are. So if you're spending time with somebody who doesn't make you feel good about yourself, you are creating a mirror back to yourself that is a negative reflection of who you are. We see ourselves very deeply in the people that we spend time with, especially when we care about them, because we don't naturally have a defense mechanism against them. We don't have our guards up with them. So what they say to us and how they treat us penetrates because we're not protecting ourselves from them.
Right, it's someone we're close with, so, okay.
Exactly. So that's how it becomes toxic, because things are only toxic once they get inside. If they don't get inside, they're not really an issue. But it's once it starts to penetrate that there becomes a problem. There's a saying that says that a boat does not sink because of the water that it sits in. It sinks because of the water that gets inside of it. So when we have certain relationships, they are permeating spaces in us that begin to define who we are. And those are those relationships that we're very close to. So you want to ask yourself who you really want to be or who you see yourself as. And then are the people in your life that you're allowing into your space, are they reflecting the best you back to you, or are they reflecting a you that you're not proud of in any form or fashion? And don't get me wrong, that's not about friends agreeing with everything that you do and telling you that your world is perfect and you make no mistakes. That's not what we mean. But we mean people who make you feel good about yourself. Are the people that you're surrounding yourself with doing that for you? Then I have to be kind to myself. What it is that you say to yourself, inevitably, you will allow other people to say those things to you. You'll allow other people to do those things to you. Because the I is our internal dialogue. It's the conversations we have in our head. And if we said some of the things out loud, we say to ourselves,
yeah, I don't want to go there. That's usually not a good thing.
We're all so critical.
I know.
Particularly those of us who are somewhat perfectionists, and we really want to be fantastic at what we do and the roles that we play, whether it's as a friend, a mom, a sister, a professional, a partner. It doesn't even matter what it is. A brother. It doesn't make a difference. We want to be great at each of these things. So we have a tendency to be overly critical with ourselves. And when we talk to ourselves that way, it's hard to recognize when someone is being overly critical of us on the outside.
Right.
Because it just sounds like our internal dialogue. So both of us are sinking us. But the enemy inside is far more powerful than the enemy on the outside. You cannot be your own worst enemy. So we have to be kinder to ourselves. We've got to be okay with the fact that we make mistakes. Yes, we messed it up. Okay, let's do our best to fix it and move on. But what we did does not define who we are. But as long as we are not changing the way that we speak to ourselves, we will have a very difficult time changing the way that others respond to us, because we teach people how to treat us. The next thing is P. Positive people make a world of a difference. It's like, if you think of it like getting a cold, think of the people that surround you in your world. They have symptoms. All of them do. Some of them are good, some are bad. But if we think of it like a cold, what it is that these people are putting out, do you want to catch it? And if the answer is, I wouldn't want to catch what it is that you're putting out, then you should not be a person that I spend a lot of time with. And it's true that we can't control all of the time that we spend because we have colleagues.
Right.
We don't get to pick our colleagues.
We have, parents of our kids' friends.
Absolutely.
We have people that we associate with because we're doing volunteers, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
We do.
And we don't get to choose those people. There's nothing we can do about that. We don't get to choose our family. But we do get to choose.
I was going to throw that one in.
We don't get to choose that either. But we do get to choose how much time we want to spend in these environments and how much influence we want to allow these things to have on us. So if I have a negative colleague, for instance, I might not want to go to lunch with that person in addition to the fact that I already spend all of this time with you during the course of the day. There have to be places and times that you kind of decompress from all of the negativity if you cannot control the fact that this is somebody I have to work closely with. But you have to be aware of the fact that regardless of how strong any of us are, everyone we spend time with influences us in some kind of way. And just because we're adults doesn't mean that we're any different than our kids are. Our kids have the same experiences. They'll say that, Tommy's not such a bad kid. He just got in trouble, these 4 times this week. He's really not that bad.
Right.
And we're saying as parents, if you hang out with that, soon we're going to be talking about you getting in trouble that often. But it's the same thing that happens when we're adults. If you're hanging out with someone who is constantly negative and all they're talking about is what doesn't work, over time, you'll find yourself thinking those same kinds of thoughts because they do penetrate.
See, that is so funny to tie it back to the kids, because you can so clearly see it
with your kid.
In that school setting. You can see kids who are trouble. You can see kids who are having a bad influence on your own child, but you don't always see it in yourself.
No. And we overestimate as adults how influenced we are by things. We really think that somehow this magical thing happens when we become adults and all of a sudden
we're so smart.
Right, absolutely. And we're totally capable of being impenetrable by anything that we don't choose to allow in. But we know by virtue of commercials alone, billions of dollars are spent on being able to plant little subconscious seeds in our minds every day. You weren't thinking about that hamburger until you saw the commercial.
That's right.
And it has influenced us, and we didn't even realize that it did. Think about, that's just a couple of seconds or minutes watching television. Imagine what the collective cost is of hours and hours and days and months and years in those same kinds of environments. They are influencing us in ways far greater than we realize. So it's important for us to take that time to evaluate, which is the E.
Evaluate.
Evaluate, examine, evaluate, whichever word works for you. What is it that I like and want in my life? How are the relationships that I have right now really propelling that forward, or are they slowing me down, or are they turning me in the opposite direction? Because there are multiple things that could be happening. Some just stop the growth. Some actually unwind what it is that we work so hard to do. You know, you spend years building your self-confidence up, start hanging out with somebody who's negative, and all of a sudden you find yourself saying worse things to yourself than you were before you went through this whole process of personal development. So it can do lots of things to you. But on the converse end, the positive side, having somebody who's really positive in your life, you literally, it's like air. You're breathing differently because of these people. That they remind you that I'm really good at this stuff. And it's okay to be great at this stuff. And I like how I look. I like what I sound like. I don't have to be like this other person. I'm good in my own skin. And because we're parents, most of us, we have to model that for our kids. They need to see us choosing healthy relationships so they know to do those same kinds of things. They need to hear us talk about doing that so that they understand that we all associate sometimes with people that aren't great for us and have to do something about it. And then consciously choose people who are really good for us and really value those relationships because they really affect who we are.
That sounds great. And you know, it is a little bit like you think of it's seasonal change of clothes. If you don't make room in the closet, you can't add new things. And it can be that way with friendships too, because if you see somebody you want to spend more time with, well, you have to have less time somewhere else. Time does not appear. So in order to grow and develop new friendships, new relationships, you do have to sort of go through this process.
It's true. And you don't have to, and don't be afraid of it.
You don't have to fire them. You just choose to spend time differently. It's a shift.
Exactly. And it's no different than the evolution that we go through when we come into our adulthood. We still enjoy doing lots of things, but we figure out that we cannot necessarily have all the things in our lives in the same places they once were. You know, we can't always hang out with our friends when we want to. We've got to go to work. We can't.
People may just be at different places right now, too. I mean, there are times when, you know, you are totally best friends with someone who has a kid that age, and you go through this intensive toddlerhood, and then things might diverge. And it doesn't mean it's, you know, that's a bad person. It's just not a great fit for you as much of the time
at this point in your life.
Right.
And if that person's a very positive person, then make the effort to maintain a relationship. You may not do what you used to do together, but make the effort to maintain this, because good people are so precious, you know, so you want to keep those good relationships in your life. Don't let those just disappear, because those are the things that we regret far later.
We should talk about how to maintain and nurture those relationships sometime.
We absolutely should. Especially for busy people.
Yes,
because it does make a difference. Oh, that would make a great conversation.
Okay. All right, I'm going to have you go through WIPE one more time to keep it in my brain as we close.
So for the W, who do you want to be and who do you see yourself as? It's the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And are the people in our lives reflecting that person you want to see yourself as? Are they reflecting that back to you? I have to be kinder to myself in my own head. If I don't change the way that I talk to myself, it's going to be very difficult for me to identify when I'm hearing what I need to hear or when I'm hearing what I really shouldn't be surrounding myself with. It's harder to do that if you're not kind to yourself in your own internal dialogue. P, positive people are priceless.
That's so true.
Hold on to those people in your life. It doesn't matter when they come into your life. When you find someone who makes you feel like you are a better person, that make you want to strive to be something better, that kind of support mechanism, hold on to those, because those relationships will absolutely help you grow. And the opposite is also true if you have negative people. And then E, examine, evaluate. Take the time every once in a while when you do your spring cleaning or your New Year's resolutions.
I was going to say New Year's, but the back to school time is one of those beginnings. We have beginnings in the spring,
birthdays even.
That's right.
How do I want to do this differently this year than I did it last year? And understanding that we do not exist in a world all by ourselves. Who we are is directly connected to who we surround ourselves with. So you want to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that help you to be your best you. And when we do that as adults, it makes it so much easier for us to teach our kids how to do that, even when they're very young, because it's going to be some of the best advice we will ever be able to give to them so that they themselves can be their best selves as well.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm gonna go and try this. This is a hard one for me.
Yes.
But
wipe out those negative relationships.
And we're going to work on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks.
And thank you for watching. I hope you think of this idea of examining who you spend time with and who you are close with and making sure that you get the best support system and the best reflection of yourself that you can get. Thanks for watching.